So today's session is a leadership dialogue, and this is a very unique session when there are multiple things which are converging together, which include strategy, military, future, technology, geopolitics. So that's what we are going to cover today. This is being telecasted on two mediums. One is linked to an interactive medium. People who have privilege of joining on that link will be able to ask interactive questions directly. Yes, my request to you, please put your question on the question answer or chat box, wherever you prefer, with your name and the question. And then the host may unmute you to speak your question directly, or maybe as a moderator, I may be speaking about that question. And also we have this being directly being zoomed on to YouTube. So some of the people who are not logging as interactive sessions will be able to see it on the YouTube. But for all of you friends on YouTube, yes, it'll only be a session where you can view and interaction will not be possible. So with that as backdrop, welcome once again. I'm very glad that we have two global gurus on the subject that will be speaking about this very important discussion. And this discussion is actually a quite unprecedented situation being discussed in the globe. And yes, when USA has moved in and picked up a sitting president of a country, brought him and his wife back to their own country, and being tried almost like a law enforcement situation when saying they were into drugs and it was impacting our country. So that as a backdrop is as such very unique. And we have, like I said, two global gurus on the subject who will provide us more outlook on the situation, what it means for the world. Does this changes future geopolitics from here onwards? So we have two speakers. I'll quickly introduce them, although they don't need an introduction. They're very, very globally famous experts. We have first Lieutenant General Dr. Rajesh Pant, PVSM, AVSM, VSM. So General Pant is a very renowned personality across the world in the fields of cyber, infosec, policy, and he was National Cyber Security Coordinator for India. And during his tenure, India on the UN Global Cyber Security Index rose from 47th place to 10th. And he's also advisor to many global strategic organizations, companies, and forums. So welcome, General Pant. Thank you so much for finding time today. We also have Maj Gen Jagatbir Singh, VSM. He had a very sterling career in army. Now he's a strategist who's regularly contributing to many think tanks and prints. His articles can be seen very regularly in top magazines, and they are very much appreciated for his thought process, his insightful analysis, and also whatever he's been writing has been taking place in the world. So I don't know whether he's also got some traits of fortune teller, but that's how it has been. And he's also editor to the Salute magazine and a distinguished fellow with USI. So I know both our experts are great. To General Jagatbir, welcome to this.
Thank you very much, Gary, and it's a privilege and honor for me to share the stage with General Pant. Jain, sir.
Great, sir. So just very quick outlook, although I think even audience is a very expert audience. I can already see name which are part of head of organizations and influencers themselves. But right now we are talking about one of the world's, not one of the biggest influencer in the world, whether USA, whether it's a economic influence, military influence, NATO is such a big influence. USA is very unique because they also have a huge cultural influence. The way people are eating food across the globe, what they wear, how the financial process works, a lot of things are coming from there. So they are not just the economic might, a military might. They are a very big influencers in the way globe will live and work. And what we have noticed recently, when a capture of a sitting president without a war, shown as a law enforcement breach of drugs, the type of military operation it was, the type of cyber operation it was, ability to shut civic communities, insider threat. So all this and many other things are taking place. So Jal Jagat, may I come to you and say that United Nations, which is the global body, which ideally should be the police and the court of the world, has only said that this is constitute a dangerous precedent. And things have paused over there. I know there is a special assembly called and discussions taking place, but what does this mean for the globe, where we are, and how this will shape up further?
Yeah, Gary, thank you. It's a very, very interesting question. And I must add that actually this is a very relevant question. And to add to what you're saying, I have been speaking on this issue and writing on this issue multiple times. And what I have said is that these two wars which are going on, the Ukrainian war and the Gaza conflict, they have clearly shown one thing, that any country which is a permanent member of the UN Security Council, or any country which is backed by the UN Security Council. In the first case, I mentioned Russia. In the second case, I talked of Israel being having unequivocal backing of the United States. And now you've seen the actions of the United States. So they can get away with anything because the United Nations per se, where does it stand today? This organization was in need of restructuring long, long time ago. Today, as we just, as I came in here, I was just going through the headlines. President Trump is got out of 60 agreements, including a most important one on climate change. So, what has he done? What you spoke just now. He has said that we are not at war. But under Article 2, the US has the power to enforce its law. And as per him, the crime committed by President Maduro was that he was actively involved in, drug trafficking as far as the United States was concerned. Yet, if you go into the own history of the United States websites, you will realize that the maximum drugs into US come from Mexico and then they come from Colombia. So now this is the status as to what he did. And neither did the UN say anything. Security Council meeting will be there. US and its allies will veto it. US, UK, France, they will all veto it. Who will speak against it? China and Russia. Now, when Ukraine gets discussed, Russia vetoes it, China abstains or vetoes. When Israel gets discussed, US and their allies. So you are stuck in a quagmire. Where do you proceed from here? How do you do it? Until this whole system is restructured, this is exactly what is going to happen. Now, just see what people had to say about this. The first day, and like you're talking of UN, said he's picked up dead of the night, flown to an aircraft, picked up from the aircraft, flown to mainland UN, and where is he taken and arranged? Just to rub salt into the wounds of the UN, he's taken to New York, which happens to be the headquarters of the UN. Now, look at that here. What are they trying to say? That we care two hoots for the United Nations. Who is the global policeman? Which are the rules? Some years ago, there's a book on warfare by the Chinese. And the Chinese wrote this book, it's called Unrestricted Warfare. And the colonels who wrote it said, the first rule is there are no rules. So, I mean, this seems to be playing out across the field now. There are no rules. As far as US is concerned, as far as those in power are concerned, there are no rules. They are creating the rules. They are doing what they want. They're getting away with it. So this is the extraordinary times when we live in. This is exactly the way we are functioning. And how can India and other countries like that, how can they navigate their way through this is what is most important. And that's what we have to see. So this part of UN rules is there. But I would also like to say that, many, many years ago, or over 2000 years ago, there's a Greek historian by the name of Thucydides. And he wrote the book on the Peloponnesian War. And one of the main things he said over there, one of the things, there's a dialogue that took place. It was known as the Melian Dialogue. And in that he said, the strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. So, this line of Thucydides is ringing true even today. So that's how it is, exactly how it is. The French criticized them. The Europeans gave a statement, but then justified it. And what did President Trump say yesterday? He said that he's upset with the European Union, and he said that if it wasn't for me, uh, Ukraine would have been overrun. So it wasn't for US, Ukraine would have been overrun. And another issue you raised, and that was picking up a president from his country, and they have done it earlier. So we'll talk about that whenever. But regime change has been on their cards, has been a playbook of theirs. And Manuel Noriega was also picked up, tried, imprisoned, then sent to France, then sent back to Panama, house arrest, and finally he passed away there. So, I mean, this thing has happened, and they are not saying regime change, they are now trying to say regime reorientation. So, take it
Right,
as you
right.
want.
So thank you, sir. Very relevant comments. Thank you so much for it. I think maybe if I take a step forward, this particular operation, obviously there are too many discussions linked to how the cyberspace has played in it. But at the same time, the reality of our lives is sometimes I actually feel if anybody has seen the typical puppet show, while we see the puppets, but everything is being controlled by somebody on strings. I almost feel the cyberspace has become that because there is what we live is controlled by cyberspace, whether in terms of OTT, YouTubes, and videos, and so many social media things. Finance is being put from there. Our systems are operating from there. So cyberspace shutdown means the flights and everything gets shut down. And now the military or use of military along with cyberspace. So it looks like cyber has emerged as one of the most critical factor, even more critical than some of the factors which have been existing for ages. And Jalpan sir, in this time and with this situation, there is a regular evolution, but with this situation, how is this presently the geopolitical situation and the cyberspace going together, or is cyberspace impacting geopolitical situation? And I mean, yeah, I know some of people like me are still a little unclear, or maybe need more details on it. But you've done it all, so please let us know how this is really shaping up.
Thank you, Gary, and greetings of the day to all the 93 attendees of this webinar. Wish you all a very happy new year also. So Gary's asked me about the link between geopolitics and cyberspace. Let me start with a space station view as to how planet Earth is looking from top. And the site it's not a good site, frankly. Every continent today seems to be on a boil. General Jagat has very well articulated the Venezuela situation. In Latin America, Mexico, Colombia, Guyana, Cuba, they're all now in the sight of the US now. In Europe, the Greenland crisis is getting serious. Denmark has clearly said that if US takes over Greenland, then the NATO is over. In Africa, while the wars were already going on in South Sudan, Ethiopia, etc., Mr. Trump has taken out South Africa from the G20, and suddenly the Horn of Africa has become important. Israel has recognized Somaliland basically because of the importance of the port of Berbera. Because since the Chinese have come to Djibouti, everyone now wants to lay hands on Berbera because of its access to the Red Sea and a very strategic area where almost 12% of the global trade passes through. And then, of course, we have the Israel-Gaza conflict, and then the Russia-Ukraine conflict in the fourth year, the Iran crisis, and closer home in India's neighborhood, very volatile situation in Bangladesh. Operation Sindoor is still going on. China is tightening the noose around Taiwan. Every 6 months, when they do that exercise, something new happens. And even in a continent like Australia, we've seen the recent attack in Bondi Beach. So all continents today are on a boil. And the link with cyberspace is because this is now the perfect storm for committing cybercrime. They just love this, global turbulence. In addition to that, there is a lack of international laws in cyberspace. It took the United Nations 20 years to come out with 11 non-binding norms for responsible behavior by states in cyberspace. The Italian manual has been forgotten. The Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty and the letters rogatory take a long time. So lack of international laws, lack of attribution, dark web anonymization, use of cryptocurrency are all contributing towards cybercrime. And this situation is helping the attackers across the board, whether they are individuals, whether they are activists, whether they are the mafia groups, and whether they are the state-backed actors. So cyberspace, as we all know, is embedded in all the domains, in land, air, sea, and space. And basically, there are three components of cyberspace: the IT part, the OT part, and the CT part. So the IT part is starting from the devices that we use and the networks. In defense systems also, the decision support system will all come under the IT part. The OT part will be your power grids, the SCADA and the industrial control systems, etc. And of course, the Internet of Things. And then the consumer technology, you have the wearables and the smart homes, etc. So all these three domains now provide a very wide attack surface. So, in the context of the IoT, the internet addresses, there are almost 30 billion IP addresses today as far as the attack surface is concerned. So, Gary, to your question, the answer is that the geopolitical turbulence today is helping the cyber criminals. The World Economic Forum has consistently been saying that cybercrime is the biggest man-made risk to the economic progress of nations, and they pegged it at $11 trillion, which is the third largest economy in the world. So it is a very serious situation. Back to you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Very, very relevant and surely eye-opener comments. And saying that, cybercrime on one side being the third largest economy in the world, but at the same time, the use of cyber at the international situations and part of attack and otherwise is surely something new. And I think such capability existed, but obviously none of the countries show that capability unless they use it. Once they use it, then it becomes evident. And when it comes to operations, Jan Jagat, I know that you study operations very, very closely, and you have even done on a lot of the war history and other work, which is very commendable. So in this particular one, maybe some of the operational excellence and some of the insider management to how things moved. Any comments on that? Well, yes, I know there are a lot of corporate, but at the same time, there are a lot of also military guys who have logged into this webinar. Anything in your research you found more than usual, which our military does?
Okay, Gary, before I answer that question, I'll just, take off from what General Pant had to say, where he covered this entire spectrum of what things are unfolding, how they're unfolding, how the globe looks today. And after that, I'd like to say that why did they go in for Venezuela? And it's connected to what is happening around the globe. And it's connected to what is written in the US National Security Doctrine, which was just released, when the US has categorically stated in that they want to assert their influence in the Western Hemisphere. So this is something, and it's in aligned with that. So no military operation, why I'm talking of this is no military operation can take place in isolation. The military operations have to be aligned with certain political or national goals. And you go on to operate, to carry out operations to further those goals. Now, whether you call it a special operation, which President Putin called it in Ukraine, when he went in there, he said special military operation, or uh, President Trump or the US has called this a extraordinary military operation. So, I mean, that's just semantics. But what I'm trying to say is, so this was so there are certain priorities aligned. Now, what are the priorities? Firstly, I told you that this is in the Western Hemisphere. So Latin America has always been seen as a backyard of the United States. And there have been multiple interventions by the US in countries in the United States. So there are examples of Guatemala, there are examples of, uh, Haiti, and there's failed example of the Bay of Pigs, which happened in 1961 in Cuba, and there was also an attempt. I've talked to you about Norwegia in Panama, and there's also an attempt against Hugo Chavez, and it succeeded for 12 days till it was overturned. So, I mean, this is there. So, now the US felt, one I've told you, the official reason is drugs. But what are the other reasons? So, if you go into the reasons, you realize that Venezuela has the largest reserves of oil. So if they have the largest reserves of oil and largest, I'll put it down, of oil, more than Saudi Arabia and US put together. Today, Saudi Arabia is the largest exporter of oil, Saudi and US. So, I mean, that's where it is. So they have the largest reserves of oil. Now, where was this oil going to? Bulk of the oil was going to China. China is the biggest importer of the Venezuelan oil. Today, where you have oil, bulk of the large oil producing countries, be it Venezuela, be it Iran, be it Russia, under sanctions. Incidentally, all Russian oil is not under sanctions. Russian oil from Lukoil and Rosenfeld is under sanctions. So China was buying US oil, I mean Venezuelan oil. Next thing, they had large amount of what you call critical minerals or critical materials, gold, silver, and the other critical materials which are used for conductors, for batteries, for anything. The largest processing facilities for critical materials lies in China. So China was embedded in their purchase system or their buying system of critical minerals and materials from Venezuela. So that is two. Thirdly, they had a presence of Russian military. Russian military, there was a major general posted there, and he was in charge of, uh, training their army, intelligence, surveillance, training. So basically, military cooperation. These three. So look at the red line.
Got that.
And now the fourth thing they had was they had these three things which I've said, and with this, the fourth thing they had is another country which is on the radar of Trump, and that is Iran. There's an IRGC presence in Iran, in Venezuela, and they had done a tie-up with a local Venezuelan company to manufacture drones, which is now the new buzzword, as if it's a super weapon that can do anything. So this action took place when Pentagon felt that now the correlation between China, between Russia, between Iran, Venezuelan oil, critical raw materials has reached a peak. If we don't act now, it will go out. Now, next thing I wanted to say is that the other issue is that Venezuela's closest relationship in this area is with Cuba. So they used to give Cuba cheap oil, and in return, they used to get medical help from Cuba in the terms of doctors. Now they are saying that 40 people died. Venezuela, now the figures now gone up to 100. All these people, bulk of them, out of 40, 32 were Cubans. The inner security guard of Monoro, President Monoro, was Cubans. So, I mean, this is it. Now, the next issue. The next issue is what I'm coming on to, the military part of it. Clinically done, beautifully executed in no time, but there's ways in which it would have done. Was it done off the cuff? Answer is no. Was it done with deliberate planning? Answer is yes. Were there other operatives involved? Answer is 100%. The ground was set to a great degree. Timing was given now because of weather conditions, because of other conditions. But they were CIA operatives operating in Venezuela who had set the stage and set the stage by getting into their, you know, security apparatus. How is it possible that when these planes came in, the Black Hawk and the helicopters and the plane, the radars never worked because the lights were switched off, the power was switched off. How did they know where to switch off, in what manner to switch off? Was it a cyber attack? Was it something else? But the bottom line is there was no power for 2 minutes. Not a single radar opened up. There were Chinese radars. Why did they not open up? Not a single anti aircraft weapon was fired. Air defense weapon was fired. Why was it not fired? They landed. There's not a single American casualty. Why? Now I've read somewhere, it may be right, it may be wrong, but apparently even the inner security guard, the people were compromised. They had been bought and bought over to such an extent. Somebody's got a child who was ill, he was targeted, family medical treatment was provided. Someone was not getting his promotion, he was targeted, promised large sums of money. Somebody, everybody has some grouse or something against, feeling they're not getting their due. People like that were targeted. And how were they targeted? They were converted. Somebody had some family abroad, those family were pressurized, they were talked to. And as a result, that when their families were moved out of Venezuela earlier on some pretext or the other, and apparently these three gentlemen were picked up when the planes came. So they led the way into the presidential palace. Now,
Right.
the president moved from one house to another. They never knew where he was going to be staying. Yet somebody would have given information that day. So these are all dots. These are something, and this is exactly what they've done. So they've gone into a system, they've gone into, making people compromise, and suddenly you have the vice president put in the chair. The person, the defense minister of Venezuela, only got to know about the president having been picked up and taken after the planes had crossed international airspace. So, I mean, that is the level of the, and I can tell you that, America's tried it before, done it before. They tried it in Iran. They were unsuccessful. The Iran Contra is well known, but they have actually carried it out and effected it without getting their troops involved in a fight. And I'm sure many, many more details will come out. Right now, everything is not out in the open domain. So a lot of it, what we are speaking is speculation, but gradually things will come out. And so far, as a conduct of a military operation with the aim of picking up the president and his wife, I think they have achieved their aim. Now, the legitimacy of that is what you asked me earlier, whether it's legitimate, whether it's illegitimate. That is a matter which remains and which everybody feels it is not done. Is it bullying? Definitely. Is it what Thucydides said? Definitely. So that's where I leave it.
No, thank you, sir. Very incisive and truly great. And maybe, Jalpan, definitely one thing being discussed here is that this also means the cyber supremacy of USA is also one of the major factors that such operation can be achieved. And like we just heard it from Jal Jagat, that there are multiple things which are being spoken as of now. Well, they will never be verified officially unless after 20 years some files become public. But there is also a talk about the hardware which was going to Venezuela many years back was intercepted, and then backdoors were created. And as such, there is a lot of hardware and most of the software and a lot of hardware, the control continues to be with US. So having these backdoors and ability to influence the civic infra, ability to not only start and stop, ability to even misguide, because thankfully India has got its own navigation system now, but there are a lot of other countries which have external dependency for navigation. That means where the missiles, where the bombs, where their aircrafts are going, or even where the tanks are going, can all be misguided as well, apart from not only start and stop. So with that as great. Cyber again playing up, and at the same time, is there preparation which countries like even India and a lot of others can do? How much is reality and how much the other countries also look like ready for that situation?
So, Gary, there's no doubt that the US has a very superior cyber capability. Uh, in fact, there is a global cyber power index because if you see the various cybersecurity strategies around the world, the shift is taking place from cyber security to cyber power. There's a more offensive angle now coming into all the strategies that I keep reading. So, in the global cyber power index, the USA is number one. And one of the main reasons for that is that they created their cyber command as early as 2010. And it is now a full-fledged independent combatant command. It has its components in the Army cyber, the Air Force cyber, the Marine cyber, the Coast Guard cyber, and all the other commands, they have their presence. And for example, they have 6,500 personnel as part of their cyber mission force and 133 teams, which include a national mission team, cyber protection team, combat mission teams, and support teams. So, and it works in conjunction with the NSA also, as well as the CIA. So, as Jagat was also saying, it was an operation that was coordinated with all the other agencies that matter. The cyber operations, in fact, for the first time, a president of USA has admitted that they used offensive cyber capabilities by acknowledging, the fact that they had a capability to shut down the power. So, as far as the cyber operation is concerned, it was a mix of a malware use against the power grid command and control system. Then, I mean, the story is that when the power went down, the S-300s took about 2 to 5 minutes to switch over to the gasoline part. And that's the time when those almost 150 aircrafts came in. And then there was jamming of the military communications and also the use of cognitive warfare and influence operations. So these are all the sort of techniques that are used today in hybrid warfare that we keep discussing in various forums, which is a mix of kinetic and non-kinetic, contact and non-contact, below the threshold of conventional warfare. But one thing stands out. I was just thinking in the last 1 or 2 years, what has emerged is the role of intelligence in supporting these operations. If you recall the 17th September 2024 pager attack by the Israelis against the Hamas. I mean that is an amazing sort of a story. If you see how they opened up a shell company somewhere in Hungary, and how the batteries were charged. So that operation was planned 5 years back and executed at the time of choosing. Similarly, the Ukrainians also carried out a very audacious attack in the eastern part of Russia, where a lot of aircrafts were damaged. If you recall, they sent something in the trucks, and then the drones came out of those trucks. So the intelligence-based warfare, cyber warfare, this is now the norm of the day. One of the principles of war has always been surprise, and I think this is where it is coming in handy. And an attack starts when you start planning for it. So yes, the US is today one of the strongest in terms of capabilities of cyber warfare. There's no doubt about that.
No, thank you, sir. And this further confirms and also very detailed analytical comments on how this can be forged. So yes, and also if you're looking at intelligence, surely that's a big piece. And in fact, during the recent Iran attacks, obviously after Iran was attacked, Iran realized that there were multiple Israeli intelligence operators within the country from where specific intelligence was being passed. And I can also mention that, yes, even whether it's Ops Dur, when India could inflict quite a bit of damage using air warfare alone, that to very, very, if I look at how South Asia has operated, very non-conventional warfare took place. But again, if the Indian intelligence looks like, because if those videos which came out, that means somebody was recording those videos, and neither the person got compromised till that video nor after that video. So yes, passing on information and even collecting evidence, because that was a major issue during some earlier Indian operations. So now even the evidence was made available that if you want to see it, here it is. So that's surely great, and I will request maybe a very short 2 minutes from each of my experts before we open the forum to questions. And my request will be somebody who's asking a question, or like I said, either go to chat or to go to Q&A. There's a Q&A box. Please write your full name and what you do, and then write your question. Your brief question will be very, very helpful so that we can understand quickly and pass it to the respective expert who might be answering it. So a quick one, sir, and maybe looking like the situation and the geopolitics will continue to evolve. And as of now, if I see this complete forum of global politics, well, Iran surely has been great friends of Russia and China. They started trading petroleum in non-dollar value, and a lot of things happened. Iran got severely attacked. Well, surely there was no military intervention from any of the friends of Iran. Now, if you look at Venezuela, we just heard from Jan Jagat that how strongly Venezuela and China are together. And we also know that how much of Russian support is available to Venezuela, and so-called with a lot of other countries which are not within the US lobby. They have also, other than condemning, not done much. So with this new world order, when everybody is very selfish per se, greedy per se, and with the strongest country in the world, which is still, maybe if I use the word strongest, not the second strongest, has taken over, they're showing such selfishness that not only they want this, they also want Denmark, they want this. And so with that as order, how much of self-protection any of these countries do? Is this make locally, like for us, make in India, somewhere else, make locally? Is that the way? But there are a lot of centralization already taken place. Already technology is very centralized. Nobody can start making it alone. So when countries have to look for their protection, and Jal Jagat, quickly to you for a couple of minutes, and then to Jal Pant for a couple of minutes. If you're looking at this situation, what the countries need to do?
Yeah, so, Gary, you actually summed up everything what I was going to talk about. But today, it was Venezuela. Riots have already started in Iran, which I talked about. Iran has close ties with both China and with Russia. That's another thing. Next, President Trump has categorically said he's dismissed, talked dismissively about Colombia and Mexico. After that, he's put his sights on Greenland. Denmark is objecting. Denmark is a part of NATO. US is the biggest backer and, the biggest player in NATO. So actually, people are talking unipolar, bipolar, multipolar. But actually, I say today it's a very fractured world, very transactional world. Who's aligned with who at what time and how it changes, nobody knows. So that is the thing. So if that is the key, couple of things which are lessons from the wars that are going on. One of the things I told you was this: how you person who's a permanent member of the UN can get away with anything. Second thing, what stands out is we talk of strategic autonomy. That's been a bedrock of everything. But I've always said that strategic autonomy is perfect. But strategic autonomy has to be backed by credible deterrence. And how do you get credible deterrence? You have to develop your hard power. And you have to develop your hard power militarily in the form of structures, in the form of equipment, in the form of doctrine, in the form of training. But that is not all. So militarily, you can develop it. You have to have nuclear guardrails, which we have. But apart from that, you have to develop a defense industrial base, because in today's world, everything is interconnected in this global time. Some material you're getting from somewhere, some part you're getting from somewhere, something you're getting from elsewhere. So how do you function in this manner? This is the most important thing. Hence, the emphasis is on Atmanirbhar Bharat. You have to develop your own capabilities, be it in form of defense capable industrial base, be it in form of your new technologies, cutting edge technology. But the reality is you don't have everything. So who do you rely on? How do you build joint ventures? How do you have alliances to develop that? Everybody talks, friends this, but the fact is we've all been in the army. In the Indian context, you always fight alone. When Galwan happened, how many people came to your rescue? Who said we will take action against China? Nobody. What happened? So that's something you have to keep in mind. You have to build your own capabilities in the form of your own hard power, and that can only come when you have this civil military fusion that takes place between the needs of the military, the needs of and the relying on academia, relying on research institutes, relying on civil companies, that is the private sector companies. You can't only rely on public sector companies. And to fight today, you need a whole nation approach, whole of government approach. You cannot function in silos any longer. The time has gone when you could function in silos. Today, your domains are getting, you are no longer land, air, maritime, space, cyber, communications, your story, your narrative. Now look at it. What story is America saying? Yeah, they're painting a picture that he was almost like a drug runner. And that's why he was picked up and the crime was done against Americans. So Article 2 is applicable. That's the story. Are they playing a thing? Imagine if some other country has done it. Imagine if China does it to Taiwan. What narrative would they play? Imagine what has happened there. So, I mean, the narrative is played by the player who's strong. Let's be very frank. So that's why I've always said that strategic autonomy is there, but you need to build credible deterrence always.
So thank you, sir. Very relevant. And when you said uh, fight alone, when I look at India, I think India has to change the doctrine not only for fight alone, but fight multiple fronts alone. That
Absolutely.
what looks like emerging. But we'll keep it for another day.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll as of now, I'll request Jan Pant to step in with the same question that how we get prepared and how prepared we are. Any comments on that?
So let me focus on the cyberspace and the cybersecurity aspect as far as your question is concerned. Otherwise, there are many areas to talk of. So as far as cyber space and its protection is concerned, uh, firstly, the proof lies in the pudding. During Op Sindoor 1, there were about 200,000 attacks on the power sector. Not even one succeeded. Of the total 1.5 million attacks, 0.01% got through. That is about 150. But that also led to some minor defacements of sites and some army schools, etc. So by and large, we have done reasonably well. However, we need a national cybersecurity strategy. Our present policy is of 2013 vintage, and 2013, lots has happened since then. There was no ransomware, there was no new age crimes. So we need a new strategy. And I have always been professing that we need a centralized organization which is responsible and accountable for protection of national cyberspace. You see, today, and there's a 27 September notification of 2024, which has created allocation of business rules and given the responsibility of incident response to our national CERT, the responsibility of network security to DOT, the responsibility of cybercrime to MHA, and the strategic coordination to the NCSC. And we have another organization called the NCIIPC for critical information infrastructure protection. So there's a lot of overlap. And in any incident, you find a number of multiple agencies are getting involved. So there is no clarity, there is no coherence. The number of dependency of cybercrime cases is running into lakhs. So, like Australia has created a ministry for cybersecurity. So, even if not a ministry, then all developed nations of the world have created a centralized organization. Israel has the INCD, Singapore has the Cybersecurity Agency, there's NIST in Japan, CISA in USA, NCSC in Australia. Every nation has a centralized organization, which is, as I said, responsible and accountable. So, these are the two, three things that we need, that national cybersecurity has to be created, centralized organization has to be created, and of course, the threat of insider threats and capacity building, etc., will remain. So I agree that in the present geopolitical scenario, we have to concentrate on inclusive growth. However, some strategic partnerships I think we must maintain, and we all know the countries we have in mind: Israel, France, Russia. They have been helping us consistently, so that should be kept in mind. Because today sometimes people are saying that India's policy of being neutral is also not a good policy. So I leave it that to the experts of foreign policy to discuss. But as far as cyberspace is concerned, I think we are doing reasonably well, but lots needs to be done. Thank you.
So thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I'll quickly take some questions, and my good respected Russell and senior, uh, he asked whether when the Third World War is going to occur. Well, I can answer and will not trouble the other expert. I will say the war is on. Cyber war, war for resources, economic war, that's on. Whether you fight on the streets later is inconsequential, because a lot of wars are being won on the cyber and economic front now. So we can say it's unannounced, but the war is on. But thanks for the question. So I will direct the next one to General Pant. We have Dr. Shekhar Pawar from Secure Claw, an expert himself in cybersecurity domain. And he has very relevant comments when he talks about India lacks the domestic operating system, remains dependent on other nations for advancements such as quantum computing. Google Map has our routes, drone attacks with fiber optics in recent news, cyberspace threats are there. And maybe I'll like to combine this question along with another thing which has come from Raghavendra, who's from Kupang. He also wants some comments on how the cyber-related space war is on. So maybe quick few comments from your side, Jalpant, will be very, very helpful.
Dr. Shekhar, you're quite right that we have dependencies on applications and operating systems which are not ours. But let me share with you that a lot is happening which may not be known, to everyone at this stage. I'm a member of the mission governing board of the National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber Physical Systems, and over the last 4 5 years, we have created 25 centers of excellence on all the cutting edge deep tech disciplines. It's a hub and spoke model. We have created almost 700 startups in this space. There's a lot of action happening in the quantum front also. I'm associated with a lab known as QNU Labs in Bangalore, and they have rolled out a 500-kilometer quantum link, which is probably one of the longest in the world. A lot of is happening on the space quantum part also. On the AI front, we've given a project to IIT Bombay for creating a Bharat Gen, a new foundational model for AI that is expected to be rolled out this year. So in quantum, in AI, in all the other deep tech disciplines, a lot of progress is taking place, but it will take time. We were late starters, there's no doubt about it, because of our dependencies and the sort of political government that we have, unlike the autocratic nations on the north. So, Sheikh, the other question was on space. Yeah, I mean, cyber, as I said, is embedded in all domains. Cyber warfare is taking place in all the domains, and there are countries which are not very happy with India's economic rise of 7 to 8%. So they are trying to hit us wherever we are. For example, I'll tell you, Tata Group, the biggest brand of Tata Group is JLR, the Jaguar Land Rover company in the UK. And that company was hit by a cyber attack, and it was closed down for almost 1.5 to 2 months. They closed down a factory, and this factory has lost millions of pounds. And similar thing happened with Marks and Spencer's. TCS has lost the Marks and Spencer account because again of a ransomware attack. So as Gary was saying, the world wars in cyber are taking place, but India is being targeted because of the reasons that I mentioned. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Maybe next question I'll request Jal Jagatbir to answer. And it comes from one of the industry gurus. You may be knowing him already. We have Captain Tyagi, who is very active and has not only his professional contribution alone, but also he has started very many professional bodies so that overall industry can be helped. So his first comment is, as always, very relevant comment. He says, "Peace is illusion, war is real." I think
Absolutely.
that's where we are. And he wants to ask whether, as of now, well, again, very bombastic comment. He says, uh, United Nations is not only irrelevant but overfunded, and it requires a major haul overall. And the pivotal role should be with India and countries like those. So, any comments from your side?
I couldn't agree with him more. Uh, as far as the role of the United Nations is concerned, I talked to you earlier how the P5 are hijacking it. Now, how is it that some countries which were victors in World War II and stand nowhere anywhere today as far as economies go, as far as people go, as far as, I mean, people in the sense population and their own contribution, demographics go, and their power index goes, and their representation go, are still ruling with these laws of World War II. So, I mean, there's something wrong. Everywhere things are changing, and yet they're clinging to history, clinging in the past. So, you have Russia, you have US, Russia, China, France, Britain. Now, out of these, where does France and Britain stand? US, yes. China, yes. What about the representation from the continents? Nobody from South America, nobody from Africa. Asia, you only have China. What about large economy? Today, India is the fourth largest economy, largest population, fourth strongest military. I mean, we are the people who are facing two nuclear powers, one on the east, one on the west, fighting multiple fronts. Where have we got a voice, permanent voice in the UN Security Council? Answer is no. So there's no doubt. And as far as funding goes, maximum funding was being done by US. Today, US is, tomorrow's executive order, if he cuts the funding of UN, what can the UN do? The most overfunded organization, the UN people are living, highly paid, high pensions, travel business class. I mean, we've seen it being part of a UN peacekeeping force, the discrimination between the peacekeepers and those who belong to the UN
Got that, sir.
services. And yeah, so that is a different matter. So funding gets stopped for multiple reasons. Funding gets stopped in other places. But yes, but the fact is that the UN has to change. India has always been clamoring for a change in the Security Council. Today, when the issue is taking place in Europe, which countries are looking towards whom for guidance and leadership in Europe? The answer is Germany. Everybody is looking towards Germany. Is Germany a member of the Security Council? No. It is 5+1. That 1+1, does he have a veto power? No. So that's what I'm saying. It has to change. Why is UK and France still there? It's not required.
Got that, sir. Got that. Thank you so much, sir. Very, very pertinent. I think since we started in time and possibly we'll stop in time, we have precisely 5 minutes. And I have few questions. I'll just quickly direct one to Jal Pant and one to Jal Jagatbir. So we have Major Paul Devasi, again, one of the most respected security professional and also contributing at APAC level. He's part of the ISIS committee at APAC. So He and one more youngster, so I'm glad, a very sharp youngster, they have some similarity in question. So Major Paul Devasi says, as a corporate security professional, what can we learn from this combo of cyber and insider attack? So that's one. And we have uh, Shashwat Jha, who's still a student at NFSU, says in the context of new age and hybrid warfare, what is the role of private sector? So maybe learning for private sector and role of private sector, if you can quickly comment in a couple of minutes about that.
So I can start on this aspect. Thank you, Paul, for that question. So insider threat, still remains one of the most potent threats because technology can protect you. Your perimeter you can encrypt the data. You can have zero trust architecture, trust nothing, verify everything. But having an insider who has access to all the crown jewels is very difficult to detect. So this is where a lot of the artificial intelligence aspects are coming in. The solution lies in monitoring the behavior of almost every individual, granting him least privileges, and ensuring that he is doing what he is expected to do. So the solutions of zero trust architecture, which are being implemented in the industry, are actually catering for this sort of a solution by behavioral aspects, etc. On the private sector role, let me share with you that most of the critical sector of the company is today the private sector. If you take power, it is almost private. If you take telecom, all the major players are private. So the government is fully aware of this, and the PPP, it has to be a whole of nation approach. I mean, you can't expect a private player to be subjected to a state-backed advanced persistent threat APT attack, and the government is not able to help him. So it has to be a joint PPP approach where we call it a CBDR, a common but differentiated responsibility. So the responsibility of the government is there, responsibility of academia is there, responsibility of industry is there, and responsibility of the individual is there. So only if the whole of nation approach, as was being discussed, can we tackle this aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There is just a comment which has come also from another good security professional who has contributed to many organizations, and Ravneet Sharon. He also mentioned, what can private players, schools, and do more, especially to save younger and older generation from such cyber attacks? I know this is a little bit away from the topic of today, but it is very relevant in our lives. So, anything would you like to point out? I know the recommendations might be very large, but anything you would like to mention for Ravneet in a minute right now, and maybe then a quick question to Jan Jagatbir.
I think private sector should take advantage of its corporate social responsibilities and tackle this aspect of digital arrest that is plaguing the country. You know, there are almost 10,000 people losing money every day in our nation because of financial frauds and digital arrest and cybercrime. Now, the government can only do that much. You know, we can have television ads, we can provide material, etc., education and awareness. But the private sector, which is spread throughout the nation, can also contribute towards the education and awareness, and trying to help out and find solutions to this. So this is one aspect I think that can be tackled.
Sure. Thank you, sir. We have question from Ram, again, a CSO level security expert contributing at global level as well. So, Jan Jagat, if quick answer to him, again, he says, any predictions on Iran as of
Well,
now? So, would you like to comment that and then
the
close it?
predictions on Iran, nobody knows what will happen next. And with Trump, that is the problem. All your assumptions are being turned on its head. So they've attacked Iran by missiles from Israel, but physically, is the war over? Like you rightly brought out, World War III is still on. So riots have started in Iran. The first country where regime, amongst the first countries where regime change was tried was Iran, 1954. The elected prime minister of Iran, Mossadegh, he was removed. Why? Because he nationalized oil in Iran. So he was removed. Who was brought in his place? Shah. Very repressive rule. And then you see the opposite happening, the revolution, and in comes the religious leader, Ayatollah Khomeini. So now today, Iran, the public is suffering a lot. So there's hyperinflation in Iran, goods are not available. And to cover that, what is the Iranian government said? $7 a day a month per person. So I mean, that is the amount they're giving to manage this inflation. So this is the sad thing. But yes, as I mentioned earlier, Trump's sights are next on Iran, Trump's sights are next on Cuba, Trump's sights are next on Greenland, Trump's sights are on Colombia, and then Mexico. So, I mean, these are the countries, but who is going to unleash what on? God knows. But yes, Iran. And why is Iran more in the focus? Because Israel hates Iran. So, for Israel today, they're building this so called secure corridor around themselves. They've gone into, they'll go into, they want to get rid of Gaza. Look at it. They've recognized Somaliland. Why have they done it now? Ceasefire talks on. Do they want to put Palestinians in Somaliland and then clear the area for Gaza? They're clearing up the area north of Litani River in Lebanon. They're bombing that area. Again, Iran backed insurgent over there, Hezbollah, and they're clearing up parts of Syria. So Iran's proxies, the three H's who I call the Hamas, the Houthis, and the Hezbollah, have all been targeted in different manners. Though in Yemen, what you're seeing is again a turnaround, because what happened is that there was a problem between UAE-backed STC and the PLAC backed by Saudi. So now who's the player which is being propped up? Ironically, the Houthis, which are actually backed by Iran. But I feel that yes, you're going to see more issues as far as Iran goes. And like you brought out earlier, the intelligence groundwork for Iran was already there. You saw when the Palestinian leader was killed in his house, where he went to visit, where he was targeted, lying on a particular bed, explosive fitted. I mean, how can that happen? Nuclear scientists being targeted by, remote controlled weapons in specific places. These are all signs over there, Gary. Signs are there. So, I mean, that is the next. I mean, in the Middle East or West Asia, we call it next is Iran.
Yeah. No, great, sir. Thank you so much to Jal Pant. Thank you so much, Jal Jagatbir, and thank you so much to all the great audience and the questions that came up. Thank you, sir. I know the discussion requires more time. Possibly when we plan the next one, we'll do with a larger time window available. But considering today's time window is over, my sincere gratitude to both of you, sir. Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for sparing time and sharing your very, very detailed, analytical, and intelligent comments. I'm sure this will be very useful for the all audience. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody who logged in. Have a good time. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Jagat. All the best.